I don't know how many Bedlam Series W's it's going to take before people stop calling this the Sooner State. They need us more than we need them. They can't beat us as much as we already do beat them. And the 9 NIL sports have been named at Oklahoma State. And I kind of have a problem with it because I like national titles.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your top stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at Aldeo State. Today, we're brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first entire year. Get with Monarch today. Meanwhile, we shift into the conversation that involves football, as it naturally is going to. Chad Weiberg, Oklahoma State's AD, announced the 9 sports that are going to be included in the NIL packaging. And logically, football, of course, drives the bus, makes the money, pays most of the bills, so it's going to get the bulk of the financial compensation. That's logical. That makes sense. Men's basketball, absolutely, of course. It's the next money maker. Women's basketball, yeah, I think that definitely makes some sense as well. But that's when you start tiptoe into the waters of uncertainty. And guys, I tell you, I'm perplexed, to say the least, how we can include Cowgirl soccer, which I love Cowgirl soccer. I love Coach Carmichael. I think he's done phenomenal things. But how do you get rid of something like Cowboy golf that just won a national championship as far as one of the NIL sports goes is kind of beyond me. Even outside of that, tennis, Cowgirl tennis, they just won an indoor national championship. Now, it's outside of the NCAA classification, which I understand. But, you got baseball in here. You got softball in here. You got wrestling in here. All of that makes sense. And, again, I don't necessarily have a problem with the soccer being put in here. But is this a Title IX issue? Potentially, because you have more male sports than female sports. So is that part of this equation? I don't know, but more clarification would be warranted here, in my personal opinion, because if you're going to choose the sports that have the best marketability, visibility, eyeballs, internationally even, golf has to be in that equation, especially when you just win a national championship in that sport, especially when you have a tennis program that is projected to compete for national championships. Like, again, I love Cowgirl soccer, and I think Coach Carmichael is a bad mamma jamma. But I just feel like there's an opportunity here for some disgruntlement down the line. And that's not even talking about Dave Smith. What Dave Smith has done in the cross-country department is done what? Won multiple national championships. Matter of fact, the last national championship before we just won the golf national title was in cross-country 2 years ago. So cross-country is not included in this. Neither is track and field. Dave Smith has worked his entire career in Stillwater to get Oklahoma State in the top 14, top 15 conversation. At one point in time, that was almost a laughing matter. Oklahoma State track was not viewed as any particular sort of asset until we were able to use it in the recruitment of guys like Tyreek Hill. Before that, Oklahoma State track was more or less an afterthought. Cross country, different story. That's where the bread and butter was for the track and field program, was the distance side of things. And now Brian Musau goes off and wins a national championship individually to go represent Team USA now at some point in time, or go represent somebody internationally anyways, and rock the orange and black. So Dave Smith has spent years building up the track and field program. Dave Smith was integral in getting guys like Tyreek Hill after Tyreek Hill that could do a little bit of everything. Now he recruits legitimate sprinters and legitimate jumpers and hurdlers and throwers. And now we're going to strip some of the NIL capabilities away from them. Make it make sense, right? So somebody down in the comments section here can make it make sense. As it pertains to golf, yeah, you're still going to have your Ricky Fowlers and your Victor Hovlands and your Alex Norans out there representing, which is huge. And now you have Ethan Fang that's going to represent Team USA. But why would we take that out of the equation. Respectfully, cowgirl soccer has never been a big deal. So again, is this strictly a Title IX thing? Because if it is, we need one more female sport anyways to avoid any future conflicts. Now, I'm not a litigation expert, so I don't know the ins and outs. I'm sure there was some, mathematics involved. I'm sure there was some discussions involved. But I feel bad for the sports that are winning the recent national championships. So Oklahoma State gets to proudly say we have natty number 53, we have natty number 54, but both of those sports, you ain't getting nothing for NIL. Does that mean that they're going to be limited completely on recruiting? Absolutely not. But incentives are going to be part of the recruiting evaluations for every student athlete and their agents, their families, their crews, or whatever. And not having any NIL possibilities, that can't be good. How are you going to continuously go get the Victor Hovlands and the Matt Wolfs and the Preston Stouts and the Ethan Fangs if NIL is completely out of this conversation? Now, Carson Creek is going through a rebeautification process, and I know that there's donors that are very heavily involved in golf. So perhaps it'll be something external that carries sports like golf and tennis and track and field and cross country through the finish line. I'm just saying, I feel like it's not a good look to win a national title in cross, to win a national title in golf, and then to tell those sports, thank you for what you've done, but now you're going to be kind of pushed to the back. In place of what? I mean, I understand you can't remove men's basketball. You can't really remove baseball, especially in Stillwater with how highly the baseball product is supposed to be viewed. But am I viewing this from the wrong lens? Should golf and cross country and track and field and tennis, should they all just kind of take this laying down? There is still going to be scholarship opportunities. There is still going to be advancement for academics, obviously scholastics. For those Olympic sports, even more so than maybe a football, is imperative to, their futures. But I wonder if A, this is the right move, and B, if there's going to be any Title IX things in the future, then we need to add something anyways to avoid that. And if we're not going to avoid that, and we're just going to go off of the best sports applicable for dollar bills, I don't understand how not going out and getting the best golfers in the country, their best tennis players internationally or locally, is not still a crucial part of the process. I think a large portion of people would make arguments that maybe wrestling should be bypassed for something else. Obviously, at Oklahoma State, that is different. But if it's a case-by-case basis, then what is the case being made for why these 9 sports were chosen? Primarily soccer. I know we've had some decent runs, but by and large, we're not competing for Big 12 titles on a yearly basis or every other year basis in soccer. We're not making runs at national championships. We don't have a Abby Wambach style of ladies that are coming up through our program and going to rock Team USC and play all over the world. We don't have that. We do have that in golf. So that's why I find this kind of odd that golf was left off this list. And even, Dave Smith has dedicated most of his life to Oklahoma State. And I'm sure whenever he was doing this in the beginning, money was never a factor. But now he's built up the track program. And now the track program produces legitimate sprinters, which is something that we historically had never done before. So I just feel like if Dave Smith builds all this up, this is kind of pulling the rug out from underneath him. Unless I'm missing something here. So feel free to let me know down in the comment section for all you fine folks out here on YouTube. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I am missing something. Maybe this is the right route. Maybe women's soccer is viewed above men's golf at Oklahoma State for X, Y, or Z reason. I just can't find what those X, Y, or Z reasons are other than Title IX. But even if Title IX was part of the equation, they're still missing a sport to make it even. So are we not opening the door for more issues later on? I don't know. But I don't love it. Tell you what I do love, though, is managing my money more appropriately. And Monarch Money is going to be able to help me do that. It's going to be able to help you do that, too, as well, because we've all checked our bank account and wonder where did the money disappear to between just going out, online shopping, daily entertainment. It is very easy for us to all lose track of where the funds are going. This is where Monarch Money comes in to be your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you can just stop managing money and start building wealth with it. When you start using Monarch, you're going to realize how much you were spending on unnecessary things like food delivery. You can budget smarter with Monarch having your back. The all-in-one convenience means you ain't got to juggle a bunch of apps anymore. You can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan your long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever when your partner is Monarch Money. You can track your shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page stress-free. Take control of your finances today with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, at monarchmoney.com. That is 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Use that code LOCKEDONCollege to get your half off so you can manage money and get rid of the stress of the unnecessary spending. Bedlam is back, or at least if you're in the OU country, it probably should be, right? Even whenever OU was beating us for year after year after year in football, and unfortunately that was happening, we were still managing to beat them in the overall Bedlam Series. So when you combine all of the sports, right, your wrestling, tennis, men's basketball, women's basketball, baseball, softball, football, track, field, cross country, golf, you combine them all together, Oklahoma State was winning. And we did it again. We won it last year. We won it again this year. It was recently announced. And this is 10 of the last 12 years. So even when OU was doing so great in football, they were not able to beat us all across the board. So the Bedlam Series championship comes to Stillwater again. And with as much as we beat the ever-living tar out of them and so many sports other than football on a consistent basis, how long does this continue before people still call this the Sooner State? I mean, we're celebrating cheating, right? That's what a Sooner is. It's a cheater of the land run. So why do we promote it? I don't know. But especially now when it's been proven year after year after year after for decade, 15 years, that the only sport other than softball that they ever had over us was traditionally football. So now OU fans are always going to talk about how, well, there's not going to be Bedlam football because Mike Gundy's a big old baby about it and this, and that, and the third. I don't like the way that Mike Gundy handled some of that conversational piece about OU left, and he did seem kind of bitter about it, although he was not wrong. They did leave like a thief in the night. And since they have left to the SEC, it's obvious that the pasture was not greener on that side. I have always wanted Bedlam football to continue because I think it's beneficial for both universities. I also think it's beneficial for both conferences. I know the SEC likes to, pretend that their stuff don't stink 24/7, just like Texas likes to pretend everything's bigger there 24/7. There's a lot of pretending going on. But OU fans want to continue to pretend that they run the state because people call it the Sooner State, even though when you combine all the sports, they can't beat Oklahoma State. It's mind-blowing to me. So if OU was smart, right, and they are clearly going in the intelligence direction by all of the hiring and firing of their new training staff and medical stuff, that's a big deal. So they're willing to make adjustments. This is OU's time to bring football back, not Mike Gundy's. Again, I don't love the view that Mike Gundy took of it and saying that, well, we'll never play again because they left. I don't feel like that was great, but He wasn't wrong. And do they not need this more than we do? Because if we're going to continue to have the Bedlam Series, what's next? Get rid of that? Because without football, OU stands virtually no chance. We can play them every year in softball, multiple times in softball. We could play them every year in both women and men's basketball. It doesn't matter. Bedlam is an orange and black state. They know it. The stats prove it. I mean, heck, we've beaten them 2 out of the last 3 years in football as well. So with all of the posturing and all of the nonsensical arguments that are being made in regards to Oklahoma State not wanting to have Bedlam, they need to shift a little bit and try to bring back Bedlam. So instead of throwing shade at Mike Gundy and Oklahoma State, shouldn't OU football and OU football fans instead be begging OU and begging Mike Gundy to find a way to bring this game back? Because they need it clearly more than we do. And their time in the SEC hasn't exactly gone swimmingly just yet. So with this, I wanted to read this little writing. For the 10th time in the last 12 years, Oklahoma State has beaten OU in the Oklahoma Oil and Natural Gas Bedlam Series, handing the Sooners a 15-10 defeat in the 2024-2025 season. The Bedlam Series is calculated by straight wins and losses in head-to-head competition. With Oklahoma State and OU have been in competition for more than 100 years, the All-Sports Bedlam Series did not come into existence until 1999-2000 academic year. The 26 years since, Oklahoma State holds an advantage of 14 wins, 11 losses, 1 tie over OU, including winning 10 of the last 12 years. The 2024-25 season marked the first year in which the two schools competed in different leagues, but the overall results remained in line with what has become the norm prior to OU's move to the Southeastern Conference. OU has beaten Oklahoma State in the All-Sports Bedlam Series once in the last 12 years, with Oklahoma State winning 10, and the two teams splitting the title in 2022-2023. This year's edition of Bedlam was nearly clinched before Christmas was even over, thanks to a 10-1 run from Oklahoma State that included a shutout win in soccer, men's and women's cross country, NCAA regional sweep, and a 35-3 thrashing in wrestling. OU gained momentum during the winter sports, but OSU wins the NCAA championship in women's tennis and men's golf, and it helped the 2024-2025 series in favor of the Pokes. So yeah, Olympic sports, we got you beat. Sorry, we don't have gymnastics. If we did, you would have that advantage. But since you don't have advantages in almost every other sport outside of softball and football, why would you not bring this Bedlam game back? So instead of pretending that Mike Gundy is too scared to play this game, yeah, he said some colorful things about it. But I think that even if Mike Gundy sat down, he would realize that it's good for Oklahoma State. It's good for the Big 12, primarily those two things. But it is good for the state of Oklahoma. And right now, for the benefit of OU, it'll be good for them to try to get more Bedlam games that they think that they could physically possibly win. Naturally, football is going to be the starter of the conversation for them. After our abysmal 3-9 season, it makes sense. After us beating them in recruiting nationally, it makes sense. We're beating them locally for recruits as well. That probably stings a decent amount. So although I believe in Brett Venables, by and large, I think he's a pretty decent dude that has a good track record, that's trying to do things somewhat reminiscent of what Mike Gundy's done in Stillwater. It might be time for him to grovel a little bit more towards Mike Gundy or Joe C. to go begging to Chad Weiberg. Either that or you need to get rid of the Bedlam Series. That's OU's only other option. Either bring back football, play multiple times a year in softball, or just get rid of the Bedlam Series altogether and stop pretending that this is a Sooner state, because it's not. It's not even in football. And yeah, our season is worth some condemnation, but OU didn't do all that hot either. And expectations there are astronomically high on a pretty consistent basis. So they might run Brett Venables out of the building before any of this comes to fruition anyways. But instead of all of the disparaging remarks towards Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State. Why don't we flip the script here? Because this doesn't make sense. Like, there's just not a lot of competition in the other sports. So either Oklahoma State needs to start a wrestling program, or, I don't know, OU should maybe take a little bit more pride in their wrestling program. People tend to forget that OU has like 6 or 7 national championships in wrestling. They used to be legit. They used to be good. They used to do something productive. It used to be a meaningful matchup. I guess if you're not going to bring back football, then maybe you're going to do some more canceling. Maybe that makes sense as to why OU doesn't want to wrestle us anymore. Okay, cool, fine. What's the excuse for the other sports? Because in men's basketball, Steve Lutz is not going to run from Porter Moser, even in a rebuild year, even in year number 1, even while not have a full understanding of what the roster is going to look like. We're not going to back down. There's not a sport in Stillwater that is scared of OU. I would say even softball. Kenny Gajewski has had such a successful run that he probably doesn't fear them. He probably invites that competition level. So football, gymnastics, and softball are the only things that they could potentially have over Oklahoma State. Yet, this is still called the Sooner State. Can we fix this? I don't know what needs to happen. There's got to be a government level petition or something to that effect that can be done. Because settling it on the field doesn't equal it being a Sooner State. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of tired of people outside of Oklahoma calling it the Cheater State. That's what it is. And Kenny Gajewski, for as much as this was a down season, I would imagine he would welcome a 3-game series every year with OU anywhere they want, multiple times, because he's about that business. He's about that life. However, he is experiencing some turmoil for really the first time in his career here. Michaela Wark, the home run specialist, is gone. And this is after the announcement of Talon Edwards. Oh, my goodness, I can't even speak English. Talon Edwards announcing that she's going to Texas A&M. Now, Michaela Wark hadn't said that she was going to A&M with Talon yet, but as soon as Talon Edwards put that out, Michaela Wark jumped in and said, I can't wait to do great things together. And then a few hours later, she puts out that she's going to Texas A&M. Not a massive surprise, right? Texas A&M is ATM for a reason. They have ATMs that apparently just disperse money left and right. Can't hate on it, right? Texas Tech went the ATM route to build their softball roster. So perhaps it's going to be okay. But this is a new territory for Kenny Gajewski. Losing people in the transfer portal, it happens. Bringing in some of the top players in America, right, like Carrie Everly or Riley Crandall or Ruby Malin or Megan Delgadillo, those are all normal occurrences for Kenny Gajewski. But losing the top players, that's new. Kyra Aycock, she's gone. Talon Edwards is gone. Michaela Wark's gone. We've got a few others gone. Had a couple that graduated. So before the season, Coach Kenny Gajewski was telling us this is probably the most talented roster I've ever put together in Stillwater. Obviously, some things kind of got in the way and took place, and it didn't go well. So he's going to have to revamp this team. So having some girls leave was normal. It was going to happen. But having somebody like a Talon Edwards, who I would say 6 months ago was bleeding orange and would have socked anybody in the throat for talking crap about cowgirl softball. Now she's an Aggie. That just, it doesn't sit right. And it makes you wonder, is Kenny Gajewski having to revamp things a little bit too much? Is there something that needs to have an adjustment period that is a little bit unforeseen? Is he losing some of the grip on the recruiting or the locker room? Or so? Is there any discontentment? Because clearly there's multiple times this previous season in his post-game press conferences, he wasn't happy. He was fairly open and calling out the girls. But that's publicly, right? That's in front of the camera. What's happening behind the cameras? And whatever's happening behind the cameras to allow somebody like a Talon Edwards, who not too long ago was bleeding orange and ready to fist fight people. Like her and Ollie Gordon are there's only one Oklahoma and it ends with State. And so now you take that GIF meme thingy and apply it to A&M. Like Thankfully, Ollie graduated from Oklahoma State. So we can always share that one. The Talon Edwards meme just lost a little bit of luster. And I'm not saying that's her fault. I'm not saying it's Kenny's fault either. It could have just been, best for all parties involved. I have faith in Kenny G. This has only been his one down season ever. So we're going to be okay with it. But it does beg the question, what happened this season? Because when you're losing girls like Talon Edwards, that's never happened before. We've never lost the tried and true All-American glue girls. They've always stayed because of Kenny Gajewski, because of Stillwater, because of Oklahoma State. So to lose a Talon Edwards and then to have another cowgirl right next to her go to the same place, possibly for money, but it's probably not all money, right? Because she had better stats last year. So she probably had more NIL opportunities this last offseason than she does right now. Yet she pulled the trigger now, and she's already been here a few years. It's just slightly perplexing. And maybe there's going to be some more Riley Crandall, Ruby Malin, Carrie Eberly, Sam Shaw level gets that will be announced here before too long. But it hurts the heart to see a tried and true, or at least seemingly tried and true cowgirl. And she probably is. Just like Gary Rangel was a bleeding orange, tried and true cowboy until some things got manipulated unnecessarily. It could be the same thing. Or maybe Kenny Gajewski is revamping a lot of things and Talon didn't fit into the equation. Regardless, I'm not concerned about Kenny Gajewski. I think he'll have a rebound season. But it'll be interesting to see some of these names that we get in the portal because we've lost some girls that I don't think we thought were ever going to leave Stillwater. Anywho, that's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, I love you. Go check out the fun show I did with Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for tuning in to this one. If you liked it, hit the like button. If you didn't dislike it, that's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast and people out there, you're everything that makes this work. I appreciate you. Do what you do. Leave the stars. Hit the stars. Leave some reviews. You know what it is. All right, y'all. Later, taters.